Hello, Kingdom Collab. Randy and Crystal, your podcast host for the Kingdom Brew. We are so excited for today's episode. Oh, and there's my phone ringing. Where is it? Anybody, for those of you that are real estate agents, you probably know what Follow Up Boss is. And it's really cool because it's on your desktop, except when you can't find it and it's ringing during a podcast. So today we are so excited because we are going to be talking about balancing career and motherhood and faith. And so we're excited to just have an honest, genuine conversation about this, right, Crystal? Because here is where I'm going to be so honest. I have kind of mastered the whole balancing career and family, and I have built my career around my family's boundaries. In fact, my trademark saying is that I believe in intentional imbalance. I don't believe in balance. Right? There's just not really such thing as balance, but you can live your life with intentional imbalance that allows you to navigate well between family and career. But if I'm being honest, and today I'm obviously going to be honest on this topic, the one area that I have struggled with is faith. I do not give enough time to God. I still do not give enough time to God. I do not give enough time to the word. And one little tiny hack I've done, Crystal, is I've incorporated church because that used to be, I was guilty of that being something that I checked off, as making sure I went to church. But really I learned, and now I have a pastor who definitely on Sunday feeds into my Monday through my Saturday. And so that is one staple that I'm very intentional about, to make sure that my Monday through my Saturday is protected and I'm living the way I want to, but I'm still not where I want to be. So let's talk about this, Crystal, because you were starting to tell me something exciting right before we went live. What were you telling me?
I get to talk to a lot of women, and it is really hard to find that balance, right? And then what I was saying is, what do we do as women and moms and business owners and realtors and all the things? Like, what do we do that brings us joy? And I know so many women that just go through the motions. I mean, that's realistically what it is. We just go through the things. We make our kids lunches. I've had some Facebook posts about that. I get to make my son's lunch now. He's 17. He's graduating high school. I'm kind of sad. Like, that's a whole nother set of emotions. And thank God they're not getting married and having kids yet, because I can't, I'd be a disaster. So, but what do we do to find joy, right? Like, I had a full day yesterday. I'll tell you a little bit. So I had a full day yesterday. I did stream online church. My husband and I drove to Sacramento. That was a disaster. But anyways, we raced home, we had a marriage Bible study at our home that we hosted, all new people we've never even met, because I'm kind of crazy, and saw a Facebook post and was like, yeah, let's have it at my house. I don't know you. My husband's like, no, what are you doing?
I love it. I would totally do the same thing.
So I did, and now we had our first one, and then I decide after it, I'm like, God, I wish these people would hurry up and go, because I want to go roller skating with my other friends. And so I did. Like, everybody left, and I went over to the roller skating rink, and I had so much fun. Like, that brought me so much joy, and I was like, didn't go to bed until really late, because I was like, woo, I went roller skating. Yeah. Anyway, so that was the short version.
I think that you just, gosh, you just kind of pushed me to be honest here. So recently I was talking to a mom who's also in real estate in New Mexico. And we were having a great conversation. I was a little low-key jelly. I'll tell you why, because I was sharing with her like my dream career, and she's like, oh my gosh, this would be my daughter's dream career. And then she's like, I called her and I told her about it, and she's going to go for it. And I was just like, dang, she's going for it. Like, not that I'm going to pivot careers, because here's where I think the reality is, right? Like, as moms, often we are in a point in our life where we don't have the freedom to just, be that free bird and just be like, oh, I'm going to try this. I'm going to try. Like, we need some grounding, right? We have to be rooted. First off, we have to be rooted. And the first place and the main place we need to be rooted is in our faith. So we're not tumbleweed-like, and we can't be blown around, right? But typically when it comes to our careers, we're at a point in our life that we need to be rooted, and we don't have the flexibility of kind of, trying out what gives us joy. So I'll say I chuckle a little bit because my dream career. Any guess on what I've identified my dream career would be?
Gosh, no.
Oh my gosh, if you're listening to this podcast, you should, I just want to take a second and say, drop in what you think my dream career, because I'm going to come back to this live because people watch it throughout the day. I'm going to see what the guesses are. So funny enough, my dream career would be doing a podcast, which I'm doing. So I'm halfway there. And of course I love this. I love this a ton, but I would love to do a podcast where I am recapping and, in my own words, resharing true crime.
Oh, I could see that. I totally
Um,
love the crime stuff. Yep.
oh yeah, I
It's
just literally
fascinating.
I go down these tunnels, these holes, and when I was watching The Queen, and I then I went down. I think I shared with you, like I went down the major hole of Dr. Feelgood, and I was like, "What? Like our president was on heroin? Like what is happening right now?" And I just feel like you should hear me in my house. Like I literally, the whole family has. Every time I watch a documentary, the whole family gets like an hour long talk. Like TED Talk with like my own explanations and everything. And I just like, man, it just gives me so much joy to like learn things and then to investigate things and then to like give my own spin to things. And so in a perfect world, I would have launched I would be very, very successfully doing a podcast around true crime. And so I love that we're talking about it because one, I think that it's never too late, right? But I do think as moms, we don't have the flexibility to just be like, all right, I'm completely done and I'm going to pivot, right? I mean, have
No,
you
I
ever?
mean, yeah, no, we don't get to just pivot.
I mean, we don't, but could we? Could we?
Well, so I'm glad you're asking that because my first thought was, well, why can't you launch a podcast and do that? Like, what's stopping you?
Right. Well, I think it goes back to like for me, I am my family's primary income. I
Mhm.
am the stability. And it's been interesting because oh gosh, here we go. I'm going to just continue to be extremely honest here. I obviously, like Crystal, made some big changes and stepped into newness and was like, all right, God, whatever you want me to do. And I launched the collab, which the collab, just kind of to recap here, guys, I am a collab creator. I create collaborative communities. One of them happens to be the Kingdom collab. The other one happens to be a real estate collab. And they have different products. Anyhow, I have the collab going and it's amazing. But as I was launching the collab and I was like rolling out all this stuff, I was like, man, I am really good at marketing. And then I started finding out what people pay people for marketing.
A
I was
lot
talking
of
to
money.
I was
Oh
talking to
my
a real estate
goodness.
agent who told me they are paying this social media company $5,000 a month to do their social media marketing, which includes like a post a month and some engagement. And I was just like, I'm in the wrong business. So here's the deal. I do think I think that we can pivot. I think the answer is yes, right? And I think that we can have joy. I think that was such a powerful thing that you said, Crystal, is how many of us are doing all the things without joy,
Right. There's a
right?
fly or a gnat or something. So
Is it gnat season?
no, but it's like, okay,
Uh,
sorry. How many of us do we wake up and be like, what am I gonna do? It's gonna bring me joy today. I've never in my life thought that. Like, I didn't even think that was like a thing.
well, and
Right?
I think, and this is probably a whole nother topic, but I think too that there's worldly joy and there's biblical joy, right? Because
Right.
biblical joy and worldly joy are two different things. And so I think today we're talking about worldly joy, right? And
Right.
so I think we
In the
can,
moment.
right. I think we can have it. I just think that the number one thing that we have to have in order to balance motherhood, career, and faith at a higher level is intentionality.
Mhm.
And I think we have to have vision. So I just finished doing something that I've never done before. So we've all talked about, Crystal, you were on my real estate team for a long time. We worked hand in hand. We did vision boards.
Mhm.
But I was really inspired. I was at our own real estate conference a couple months back. And a friend of mine, Veronica Figueroa, who is just a beast of she's just a beast of a woman. Like she's killing it. And most recently got baptized and is just really leaning into God. And so I love it. And I would say, share this story with her, but I've kind of watched her get balance better because she was kind of doing all the things as a hot mess. How many of us, me, I'm super guilty of like, I'm doing all the things, but boy, am I a hot mess. I'm going to say as recent as like 3 years ago, she was kind of doing all the things, but as a hot mess. And I would share this story with her, but I saw her at EXPCon like in passing and she's like, I gotta go. She's like, hey Chica, I gotta go. I'm late to get on stage. And I remember thinking, should I tell her like the back of her hair needs to be combed? Because I just remember her being like this hot mess, right? And then fast forward 3 years later, she's just so grounded. And when I say put together, it's not because she has like the makeup and everything perfect. Like you can just tell she wasn't rushing to get out of the house, right?
It's an inner peace. We
Correct.
surrender to God. Like, it's so beautiful. Yes.
But you see it exterior. Like now you just kind of see her more put together on the exterior. You just see a different glow about her. And so when she was on stage, she shared this vision map. So she had done a 5-year vision map for herself, and it was extremely detailed. The level of intentionality on here was huge. It was talking about financials, it was talking about ancillary income, it was talking about, philanthropy. It was talking about every aspect of her life and what she wanted to achieve. And she shared it, and she had done it 5 years ago. And so it was almost 5 years to the day. And she was like, I've achieved everything on this. So I saw that and I was like, man, that level of intentionality will get you places, right? So I came back and I created my own graphic, and I did a 3-year map. And I really sat and I thought, where do I want my life to be in 3 years? As a mom, as a career woman, as a daughter of the king, where do I want my life to be in 3 years? And I built out that 3-year vision map. And so now I feel so much more equipped to have that intentional imbalance that I believe in, which is my definition of balance for this, but to stay on track, because now I can say, is that in alignment with where my vision is in 3 years? Is that where I want to be in 3 years? Mm-hmm. And Crystal, I think we talked about this. I have a friend, a mentor who's extremely successful, who has, one of her keys to unlocking success has been her alter ego, because she makes decisions as her alter ego and not herself. And that allows her to make the business decisions. And you and I think I briefly said, I couldn't get behind that, just Christian beliefs. Like I just couldn't get behind like the alter ego thing. But what I came up with was my future self. So now I've compounded the two. Like, now I was starting to be able to make the harder decisions based on my future self, who I want to be in 3 years, who I want to be in 5 years. But now that I put that vision map with exactly what I want in 3 years, now when I'm thinking about who Randy is in 3 years, it's a heck of a lot easier because I know who Randy is in 3 years based off that vision map, right? Mm-hmm. And so now it's like, when I think about motherhood, okay, I'm doing decent in motherhood. I'm doing decent in the career faith, the family career balance, but I know where I want to be 3 years from now as a daughter of the king. And I got some work to do. Right.
Interesting that we're having this conversation. I was on a Zoom a little bit ago, and she asked me, she said, God put in her spirit that she really needed to ask me, why I'm not spending time with God right now.
Ooh.
I was like, I gotta go because I don't want to have this conversation because I don't know what's going on. But you're right. Like, but God had already put that in my spirit. Like, I think about the time she was praying. I was sitting on the couch scrolling Facebook thinking, I probably could journal. I could do, I'm just going to scroll Facebook because that was just, so it was interesting that she brought that in. And then, like I know all the Christian things I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to read my Bible. I like to journal. I like to write.
Right.
And so like when I do those things, I'm in such a better space. And I know like recently I've been kind of a disaster in my head, just had to work through a lot of stuff because I've had some transitions and things. And so I'm much better this week than I have been. But imagine if I would have like been journaling and hanging out with God, like I'd be in such a different space. And I know that I wouldn't have gotten to that really negative space that I was in.
You know what? Yeah. You know what comes to mind when you say that is how often do the people that are closest to us get the short end of the stick? Like my mom, without a doubt, is the best human I know. And without a doubt has been the most solid source of love and support in my life since the day I was born. Mm-hmm. Inevitably, though, she gets the short end of the stick because like life is coming and, whatever, like she's the safest space. So I guess that's where I'm the most unfiltered. And often when we are the most unfiltered in our flesh, we're not delivering our best, right?
Weird.
Right?
Weird.
So my mom gets that. But when you said that, what I was thinking about is I feel like we often do that with God as well. I do that with God, right? Because I don't doubt my relationship with God. I don't doubt who he is. I don't doubt what he's capable of. I don't doubt any of that. And so it's like, I have that same grounding and that same level of security in my relationship with God that I have in the relationship with my mom. But that level of confidence in that relationship often leads to me not being a good steward of the relationship because I know it's not going to go anywhere.
We
But
toss it on the back burner, right? Like
that's, yeah,
yeah.
but man, that is like, it just, yeah, I know why you were like, can I go away now? Because it's already like, it's literally gut like wrenching when I think about like the reality of not being a good steward to my mom, right? Like this woman is like, so when I take a moment to sit outside of my flesh and sit in the truth, I'm like, man, what in the heck? Like, I've got to do better. I've got to be better. This is the person that deserves the best of me, not the rest of me, right? And when you said that, all I kept thinking is, we get going and I casually talk. Do you ever casually talk to God throughout the day? Which I think is good. I think we should talk to casually. I think we absolutely should
I
casually.
do. So I do. And then like I have some really weird, quirky things, like, and I think that I'm this amazing negotiator with God. And so like
The queen of
I
consequence.
don't love to go to Costco. I cannot stand going to Walmart. Like those are two places that I really struggle with going. So guess what I do? Well, if there's like the first like 5 parking spaces in one particular aisle on like one side, then I get to go inside. Like that's my negotiating. So I talk to him all the time, like with all the things.
Right.
And I do have like peace because I trust him.
Right.
But I have noticed with all this transition stuff, I was like, yeah, you're just over here, and I haven't been talking to him as much, and I'm not going to Costco or to Walmart, by the way, either. So my fridge has been empty, but whatever.
Well, you know what's funny about that is that I think that we do it very nonchalantly, which is good, which I believe we should have a posture of talking to God throughout the day, all day, every day, right? Like I believe we should. But I think what we cannot do is think that the simple conversation substitutes the depth conversation.
Right.
Because what God wants from us is he wants deep conversation. But what we do is we take for granted the fact that he knows. I take for granted. I'm like, well, you know everything. So do I really need to? And here's what's so funny is I'm the person that the more I care, the more details. Like, so if you're really close to me, you're like, oh gosh, and he's going to tell a story, because the more I care about our relationship, the more I need you to have every single detail. But ironically, the one person I should engage with at this level is God. Like I should, have more detailed conversations, which I will say, I've tried to shorten my prayers, because funny enough, when I pray with my kids are like, Mom, it's been like 18 minutes. Like, can we wrap this prayer up?
My kids do. They're like sleeping because I'm so long-winded. I'm like, I got to cover all the things.
My kids, well, and I used to pray for like, I can't even remember. So I know it included like, I don't think it was Lebanon. I don't know how this is morphed, but I was praying for something years ago, and baby guy picked up like Lebanon and Israel. I don't know what he picked up, but it was wrong. And you know how our kids have these little quirks and we don't want to correct them because they're so cute. So I never wanted to correct them. But like, I mean, now he's going to be 21 on Thursday, and he's still praying for Lebanon. And I'm like, we probably should have a conversation on why you're praying, because I don't think it was originally Lebanon. Not that we don't want to pray for Lebanon, but I don't think that's what we were originally praying. So I'm like, we should probably dive a little deeper into this. But I think that, that's the thing that's really I'm missing. I can honestly say, I have a podcast out there that has probably 5 years worth of how to, have a intentionality around your career and your family. But for me, the area that I need to really up my game in is that faith component. Mm-hmm. And I have to say that I'm thankful to be having this conversation with you, because I know your heart for God, and I know the level in which you strive to live a life that is honoring to God and a biblical truth. Because I think that's a whole nother thing that I saw a statistic yesterday that was like absolutely horrifying, that like under 7% of churches are actually sticking to biblical truth today. And so I know that I can trust that in you, but it's interesting to know. And I think it's powerful that we're having this conversation for other women, that sometimes we get very nonchalant and very unintentional in the relationship with God. Mm-hmm. And therefore we often will really do a great job at mothering and careers and not such a great job at faith, right?
Yeah. And I mean, like your kingdom collaboration group. And I think it's so important to be in community, because then we get these conversations brought up. So, like if we don't have these conversations, we don't realize how much we've like slacked or whatever. Right. And it's not a check the box thing. Like we should never, like, I don't think God's a check the box kind of a person. He wants us in a relationship with him. So he does want us talking to him all day long. Mm-hmm. And he wants us to take him into consideration in all things that we do. And I would say I do a fairly good job. I'm not perfect at it, right?
Right.
And and I desire to be an example, like, to my kids and stuff. So like I I have another like little funny story. We were traveling and I don't like minivans. I think they're the worst vehicles ever. And if you have one, like, I support you. You go. Hopefully put some sparkles on it. I don't know, whatever. Put some rims. I don't know. But just, I just personally have never enjoyed the
Me
minivan
either. Me either.
lifestyle. And
Agreed.
maybe I'm a little more gangster. I don't know. I'm in my
We like
20s
our black
and
on black SUVs.
right.
Right.
So,
Right.
I mean, if you're a minivan lover, will you share with us why? Like, help
Yeah.
us, because I need to work
It's
on
the
that.
functionality. It's the functionality of a minivan. I promise.
So they're
Never the
logical
looks.
people. I'm not that person. So, anyways, we were traveling and the only car that they had, like, there was no cars. And I'm like, oh God, please give us a car and please don't let it be an SUV or a minivan. And my daughter could see my wheels spinning, talking to God. And I'm like getting more and more irritated as I see the minivan pulling up. And I'm just like, I was so mad. Anyways, we're getting ready to load up the minivan, and then here comes an employee with this like really nice SUV, all the things. And my daughter looks at me, she goes, "You were praying, weren't you?" I was like, "Yeah, because I was not riding in the minivan." She just thought I was so ridiculous. But it was really good for her to see that, because it was at a very detrimental time where she was questioning a lot of things. And so just, being in that conversation with God all the time, I just think that's so important. And why do we not invite him in to all the little things in our lives? Because the little things do matter, right? Like the kind of
Well,
car we drive, it does kind of matter to
especially
us.
when you're crazy like us.
Right.
There's two things. Gosh, remind somebody to shut off every ringer I have pre-podcast next week, please. So there's two things that I have to just say. Number one, I just can't help but laugh that you and I continue to be such a similar human, because not too long ago, we went with my cousin down to San Diego. We went down to the coast and we were going to I think we actually went to, like, I don't know, somewhere else, but it was near San Diego, Santa Cruz. I think the boardwalk, wherever the boardwalk is. Okay. And so we went down there and we needed to rent a car. And same kind of scenario, we decided to rent a car, and I think we were supposed to rent a truck. So I didn't want to pay for the big Escalade or anything. I was trying to be a better financial steward. So I was like, all right, I don't need that. So let me fill in. And I had tried all the different things on the system of running. And I had figured out, like, getting the truck is a pretty good in between. If you get like the truck, like the F-150s or whatever, right? So I was like, I can do that because I need to sit higher. My thing is I can't sit low like a car. It really freaks me out. Okay.
It's stressful.
So anyways, I end up with this, like, they call it an SUV, but I don't know what I call it a death trap. It's like very small. Like, I don't know what its problem is. I am not kidding. My poor husband, the entire drive, I'm like having a panic attack, and I'm trying to check myself because my grandkids are in the back of the car, and I already know I'm turning these into these like little baby bougies. Like, I already know what I'm doing to them, so I'm aware of it. So I'm like trying not to have but I'm like, the seatbelt is too close, and I'm sitting too close to the thing here, and like, why do people even have this car? And I am literally really struggling. So like my cousin and I went to run an errand. Oh, we went to go to the Golden Gate Bridge with her kids. And she's like, are we taking your car? Yours. We're taking your car because I cannot get in that car again. So anyways, total side note, just to say I can relate to that, because and then
you should have prayed and asked God to give you a nicer car.
Well, so funny enough, when you said that, I am like, I do pray about that. So Jordy and I had a conversation this morning. No, I get it. But we had a conversation this weekend. Oh gosh, I hate when God is like, I'm calling you to be very transparent and honest on air. So we had a conversation because I was, as a mom, kind of saying, like, I want you to dream bigger. I want you to push for more. I want you to, not that she has opposite gifts of me, which is that she's just so chill and so laid back and just so okay, and I'm like, more of a push, right? So I don't remember exactly what happened, but I said something and she was like, that's real, mom. Like, so I said something about like, I don't know, acquiring another asset or buying something or doing something. And it's been a hard season for us. And anybody in real estate can probably relate to this first quarter being a really tough quarter. And so she was like, yeah, that's not really realistic, mom. Like, are you like, we just caught up on a half a dozen things and you think that that's possible? And it kind of lit me on fire because everything I've ever done. So here is the truth. I've owned many homes and I own multiple homes, and I've never obtained a traditional financing loan. Never, never. And I started with a lease option. You know, that's a whole nother story, a whole nother podcast, but I had different things, different hurdles in my life, different hiccups with learning how to actually qualify for anything as an independent contractor when your income goes up and down and
So
all around,
hard,
right?
right?
Learning those balances, learning, how to manage credit when for years, I was like, oh, I don't need a credit score because I was a Dave Ramsey girl. And then anyways, there's a whole million things to it, right? But bottom line is, that I always got creative. And that what I took from what you were saying that I could have done better when I was explaining it to my daughter, because I do believe like I have made things, I should rephrase this. God has made things happen that, and it's on my arm, 137, right? For with God, nothing is impossible. And I think a lot of times as moms, we limit ourselves and we think that we can't do these things and we can't find the joy and we can't have the balance and we can't be the mom we want and the career woman we want and the daughter of the king that we want because of our worldly limitations. And when we remember that we serve a God that has supernatural power, and I think of God, of course, he is tenfold any human father. But if you think of a human father, they have their quirks and they have their fun things and they'll give into your little things. Like my dad spoils me with little things like that. Our father, God, our King of Kings, we are made in his image. So what makes us think that he wouldn't do little things like, all right, Crystal, you don't have, like, I'm going to make the van drive up right to you.
I mean, we were loading up the van.
But
and
then
I was like,
right. But you have to put it out there too. And I mean, I do that. So I think that that's the next thing that's the faith component. So sometimes,
it is.
So here's where I think is a really good note to tie it up. I think that we do have to have an intentionality around our relationship, and our relationship has to have more time, and we have to have the depth as well as the casual. Right. But I also think that we have to invite God into the every moment, that we have to invite God's supernatural abilities into our everyday moments. Right?
Not just invite, but we have to have that like childlike faith. I mean,
Ooh,
he calls
yes,
us to come to him as childlike. So imagine like if we just had a little bit more of the not adult, like,
ooh, that is
we
so good.
set aside our adult, all of the limitations, because we limit ourselves. Well, we serve a really big God. I mean, like he can do anything. And I've been in the same situation. I've bought multiple homes. I've used traditional financing in the past. When we bought this current home 5 years ago, it is a miracle of God. I mean, I literally was out front praying with my husband, God, you got to make money fall from the sky. And I'm not talking like pennies. I'm talking like a lot, like,
right.
Wanted 20% down, but we ended up with 10%. Anyways, literally money fell from the sky. Like we had people calling us and say, I heard you guys are buying a house. Do you want to borrow like 10 grand? I'm all, no, I don't want to borrow it from you because that's weird.
Right.
But because we prayed and we invited God into the transaction, like, and he showed up and showed off. And the cool part, like the story is the house, like my mom's like, I make a lot of money. I'll, let's put it in my name. I can get financing. I have nothing, whatever. She has some stuff, but not like debts. And she got denied. And then my stepdad's like, I have an 800 score. Like, I have no debts. Like I have income. Let's put both of us on it. It got denied, by the way. And I'm just like, seriously? Well, maybe you don't want us to have it. And then my father-in-law is like, I have no debt. I've got money in the bank. I've checked the box, like the 850 score or whatever. Well, all three of them were on the loan, by the way. That's how we bought our house. Like, because we've had some hardships, we filed bankruptcy, we've lost homes. Like it was really crappy back in the day. And I made a lot of really poor financial decisions. And so coming out of that. And so it was really neat that God showed up so big and people just were so generous and they really wanted us to have this house. And I don't know why, but it's God's home. And so I do crazy things like invite weird strangers into my home to have a Bible study that I've never met. So
I love how that
it all
all
ties
came full
together, right?
circle. Yeah, that was
and
good.
it's so cool how God is like, we just have to invite him in and then believe in that childlike faith that he's going to be, oh, I have goosebumps, like our provider. He's an
Yeah.
abundant God. Like there's no limitations, but because of our own fears and our own lack, like we put those limitations out there. And so if we just surrendered all of that, I think I'm preaching to myself. Then, boom, our lives would
No,
be
I feel it.
amazing. Not
Yeah.
really, but could be.
Well, no, but I mean, yeah, that was just so powerful, the childlike, right? Because I think sometimes we live in a world that, people call us to be realists, and people call us, like, a perfect example was my conversation. Like Jordy was just like, I mean, we are maxed. We're kind of at our max potential for a lot of things. And oh, I know what we're talking about. I'm listing a property that is I'm going to co-list it, but in California, and it's a restaurant. It's a restaurant downstairs, and it's a business residential upstairs, and it's a turnkey pizza. I'm sorry. Right now it's a turnkey like Mexican restaurant. And so I have a cousin who is in the restaurant business, who's done great and ran multiple businesses. And I'm always talking about, if I could get something that would bless her and get her, because the restaurant she worked for closed, the person got sick and passed. And so she went into warehouse work. And so I've always thought, man, if I could get her something that would give her her own, ability to run a restaurant, but at the same token, give us another income stream. And so we actually drove out to the property, and we were looking at it, and we were eating next door at the pizza place, which is highly profitable in this little town. And we were running numbers, and I was just so taken aback, because I was like, this building, the way that we're going to price it, the actual building will most likely appraise for the total price, which will include the restaurant that's turnkey and ready to go, that you could have open within a week, right? It was closed seasonally, but now it's opening back up. So my husband and I were kind of sitting there, like, and I'm texting my cousin, and I'm like, hey, like, I don't know if I could make it happen. I would need to get a hard money loan. I would need to see if, the buyer, my sellers, would be open to this idea, but would you be open to relocating, hour and a half from Reno, and blah, blah, blah. And she's just like, what are you, like, what are you doing? Which we all need that sound. If you're like me, you do need that sounding person to poke holes into your plans. So let's make sure we say that, like, we do all need that person to keep us a little bit grounded, because I am a big dreamer. Okay. But I was just like, I
You're
mean,
an
it's not that
opportunist.
far fetched. Yeah, exactly. But I was like, it's not that far fetched. And we're running the numbers, and it looks to have profit, right in the beginning. And so that's kind of what started it, because she was just like, what in the heck? And I missed an opportunity, and I want to go back, and I'm going to correct it. We had a great conversation around it, but I had a very, I missed the opportunity to bring God into the conversation, because I showed examples, like this house, another house, this business, another, I went all the way back to when I was 19 years old, and, had a business in my closet at my house, and I was writing people's resumes because I knew how to embellish better than most. Right. And so I gave her a million examples, but I miss saying, like, when it's God's will, there's a way. When it's God's will, it can look very unconventional and get very creative. So I just love it. I think that to bring this all back, the way to really balance motherhood, career, and faith is to have intentionality across the board.
Absolutely.
To know who it is that you give yourself grace for, who you need to be today as that mom, as that businesswoman, and as that daughter of the King, but to know exactly who you want to be in 3 years and 5 years in those same relationships, so that you execute day in and day out with the intentionality of where you want to go in those relationships.
Yeah. I mean, intentionality is super important. The last couple months, I didn't have any intentionality. I didn't know who I was, what I was doing, where I was going. I mean, I
Right.
did, because I'm rooted in Christ, right? So I know I'm a daughter of a king. I know all
Right.
the things,
Right.
but yeah, intentionality and having that plan is much more peaceful than living in the chaos of
Yeah.
our heads.
Well, and it's funny. It's funny you just said that, because I said something that I felt was very powerful. And whenever I think anything I say is powerful, it's probably from God, not me. But I said something this week, because we, on our production team, we were making some job offers, and we were doing some different things. And we were just kind of navigating who would, like, what we should do and who we should do it with. And something that I said is, people can thrive in chaos. They can't thrive in brokenness.
Yep. I
And
agree with that.
so I think it's okay for our lives to have chaos. I think it's not okay for our lives to have brokenness, right?
I totally agree. That's very, 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 very powerful.
Maybe that is another podcast topic. I don't think we're ever going to run out. On that note, I want to say I'm glad our listeners are as crazy as we are, because this Facebook user said, I tried the minivan life for like 2.5 seconds and I hated it. The function was great, but give me my Suburban all day, every day. So, just us living over here in the flesh. I have always struggled with cars since I was a little kid. I'm very proud today to be from like the most finest redneck roots you've ever seen. But there was, the big trucks. Like I didn't mind jumping in and out of the back of the bed at those. But when we had like the clunkers that were like putting up to I was like, can you just drop me up like 3 blocks away? I'll walk to school. I have always struggled in my flesh when it comes to vehicles. I don't know why. And we have a very, my mom and Junior share a very like eco-friendly Honda. Oh, the Honda we got from you. So it's such a good Honda. It's such a good Honda. It's such a good Honda. It's such a good car. But this winter, Ramon wanted to drive it all the time. And I was like, I am okay with not driving the Honda. How about you drive me somewhere in the Suburban? And he's like, what is your problem? And, this is, okay, we're at time, but I just have to wrap it up. This is how good God is. So on the flip side here, when you can just see God on all sides, it's so great. So we can see God going ahead and saying, all right, Crystal, you don't have to drive the minivan. But when Randy was putting up a little bit of too much pride about driving the Honda, we not only got dropped off in front of work, but then the door's doing this creak. So as I get out, it's like creak. And then I had to start the Honda because I had to drive the Honda, and it's doing the belt grind. That belt yeah. So, right in front of everybody, the belt won't stop. Yeah. So remember, God also does that too. Oh, are you on mute? You're on mute. Are you on mute? Or did I just lose you? Did you unplug your mic?
No, was I on mute? I was probably on mute. I talk with my hands, and you can't see all the things, but I'm a fidgeter. I don't stop moving. Yeah. So yeah. Coconut oil for the doors. It'll help.
There we go. Okay, good.
I know from experience. I've actually fixed. Anyways, yeah. Coconut oil. If you rub it on there, it'll be fine. But yeah, God rips out our pride, and we're in a position. Last year, I had a 2020 Expedition. It was like my dream car. It was amazing, beautiful. Oh my gosh, like all the things. And then it was a lemon. And so then
me too. Right? We need that to be a podcast.
And God is really ripping out my pride, because technically I don't even have a car.
Me either.
I don't have this bougie $85,000 Expedition, that I loved. So, but what I did do is we did trade. I told my husband I'd give up my car payment that was like astronomical for his dream boat. It's really our dream boat. And so, I mean, I kind of like, okay, but I have a really nice boat. I can kind of justify it. Oh my God. It is really hard.
So next week, I think we're going to talk about pride, because I also have some stories about some cars, and they're still ongoing. And so that'll be a fun story. So maybe next week we talk about pride, and so we'll come up with a good topic for that. But I just have to say, I absolutely love kicking off my Mondays with you and getting to just, have an intentional conversation about God, so that I can position myself for that. And so thank you, ladies, for tuning in and listening. Yes. We will be back again next Monday at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, and we'll be talking about pride.
Find joy in all things this week.
Yes, do it. All right. Bye, friend.
Bye.